Well, welcome to High Cheese with Darren Maloney. Today is Monday, February 28th, 2022. And I want to go right to Russia. But before I get into anything about the sanctions that have come out, I just want to talk about something I mentioned in my last episode, episode 10. And I talked about false flags. And I've talked about there is an element in Europe and other places, possibly in this country, that want American troops on the ground in Ukraine. They essentially want a third world war. And what I'm talking about is the false flags that I was concerned about coming from some element, whether it's some the MI6 or even our own CIA. But what came out on Friday night, or was it Saturday morning, really made me think that, well, maybe it's not going to be a false flag because they're just going to be brazen about this. And what I'm talking about is when the European Union came out and said they were going to directly supply Ukraine with arms, including jets, including fighter jets. Now, this is the European Union. It's not NATO. And what I'm concerned about is these European countries, including Germany, are going to supply Ukraine and take a provocative action against Russia in Ukraine and possibly provoke a response by Russia and then drawing into NATO. Now, I hope that Biden nips this in the bud and tells the European Union any action taken by them as the European Union, a response from Russia will not invoke Article 5 of NATO. Now, again, Article 5 is in the event that one of the NATO members is attacked, all of the other NATO countries will respond, which includes the United States. So, my concern is that the European Union, acting under the guise of the European Union, is going to provoke Russia. And then they're going to turn around and say, oh, we're members in NATO. You have to respond, U.S. And again, I certainly hope the Biden administration is letting the European Union know that any response from Russia as a result of you acting under the European Union will not invoke Article 5 of NATO. Additionally, what I want to talk about with this false flag is I heard something disturbing last week, and I don't know who it was. It was one of the talking heads, one of these so-called experts, which in the administration, and they had mentioned that a cyber attack on one of the NATO countries could be construed as an act of war. And he wasn't clear with it. Well, what type of cyber attack are we talking about? And this is what worries me because it's really difficult to determine where these attacks come from. And say somebody like Anonymous or whomever wants to start a world war. They can just, attack the German grid or the U.S. grid and put some type of Russian fingerprints on it. That's problematic. And I don't have a lot of faith in these cybersecurity so-called experts to determine where certain attacks come from. And I would very much like to keep that off the table if you're the listening Biden administration. Now, again, we've got the ability to attack their country from a cyber standpoint. Yeah, they could take down our grid, but we could take down their grid. I don't want it to come to that, and I do not want that to result in boots on the ground in Ukraine. We've got our own border to take care of. It's a work in progress. Now they've met today, this morning. I haven't seen the results of Ukraine and Russian meeting up on the Belarus border. Oh, which reminds me, Belarus has also come in and said they may send troops into Ukraine. I want to talk about the most recent sanctions that were placed on Russia. And the big one still hasn't been used. And the big one is the taking energy transactions off of the SWIFT system. Now, what they've done is they've taken a lot of the larger banks off of the SWIFT system. So the larger banks in Russia cannot use the SWIFT system. And again, as I explained in my last episode, essentially the SWIFT system is an international clearing house for transactions. It's a little more complicated than that. But so what happens is that these Russian banks can no longer clear transactions through the SWIFT system. However, there's a big carve out. And the big carve out is Russian energy, natural gas and oil. So those transactions are eligible for the SWIFT. And gas and oil are over 60% of Russia's economy. So over 60% of Russia's economy is untouched by this. Now, the interesting thing is that you've got oil increasing significantly during this whole crisis. And that benefits Russia. When you add some of these sanctions are trying to drive down the ruble, there's a benefit to Russia on this. Now, they're trying to drive down the ruble to zero to essentially crush the Russian economy. But the problem is they likely won't get there. And what happens is if you don't get there, because oil trades in US dollars, when you convert it into the ruble, you're getting that much more rubles because of the transaction. So Putin can now use that extra money because of the devaluation of the ruble and use that extra money to shore up the Russian banks. So I don't know how much this is going to hurt Russia if the West's goal is to destroy Russia. I just don't think these current sanctions are going to do this. Because unless you sanction the energy coming out of Russia, you'll never bring Russia to its knees. Again, I'm sorry to tell you this, and I'm not rooting for Putin, but that's just the reality. And what bothers me, if you've getting the spin from the Biden administration, oh, that these are such a great thing. Now remember, Biden has also said, and I think some of his people are trying to walk it back, is that none of these sanctions are a deterrent. They're just to hurt Russia for doing this. Now, one of the bigger sanctions that they put on is what they did is they froze the assets of the Russian central bank. Now, apparently there's about $620 billion in reserve funds in the Russian central bank. There's probably more. I'm sure Putin has a bunch of billions of dollars hidden away to use. But I guess this would affect about 40% of those reserves. So they've got some of those reserves in international banks, international funds. And I think that it will inhibit Russia from accessing those. I think ultimately they'll be able to do workarounds and get that, but right now it's just difficult. But 60% of their reserves they have access to. And the other thing, too, you got to realize is that these reserves are going to be built up because the oil has gone up so much. And the ruble has been devalued. So internally within Russia, there'll be a lot of rubles coming in. And we shall see with that. I'm as much as this is a terrible situation in Europe, this is a test run on how to treat, how to attack other countries without military force, without using boots on the ground. And the ironic thing is they keep on trying to put boots on the ground, at least American boots on the ground. So we shall see. And as I said in the past, none of this would have happened if Trump was still president. Trump has had so many conversations with the European Union, in particular Germany, about those pipelines going from Russia into Germany. His point has always been buy the natural gas from the United States. There's no reason to embolden your enemy, to make your enemy richer. And if they had listened to Trump, Russia would not be in the position that they could do this. Secondly, as I said in my last episode, the Biden administration's position on oil has resulted in us importing more Russian oil and us being dependent on Russian oil. How ironic is that? All Biden had to do is keep the policies that Trump had already set up in the United States, and Russia would not have been made richer by the United States. Okay, what I want to do, speaking of Donald Trump, I just want to play some clips from Donald Trump's Saturday CPAC conference. We need something uplifting. We've got so many screw-ups right now. We need to listen to somebody that knows what he's doing. So let's go to CPAC, and I'll play a couple of clips from the president.
You also have to portray a strength to the outside world. Otherwise, they're going to walk all over you. And that's what they're doing right now. You could take the 5 worst presidents in American history and put them together, and they would not have done the damage that Joe Biden and his administration has done in just a very short 13 months. The Russian attack on Ukraine is appalling. It's an outrage and an atrocity that should never have been allowed to occur. It never would have occurred. We are praying for the proud people of Ukraine. God bless them all. God bless them all. Thank you. They are indeed brave. As everyone understands, this horrific disaster would never have happened if our election was not rigged and if I was the president. Very simple. It wouldn't have happened. Under Bush, Russia invaded Georgia. Under Obama, Russia took Crimea. Under Biden, Russia invaded Ukraine. I stand as the only president of the 21st century on whose watch Russia did not invade another country. Under our leadership, the world was a peaceful place because America was strong, and the perception of our country was perhaps like it had never been before. Powerful, cunning, and smart. We were a smart country. Now we're a stupid country. We always, very simply, put America first.
Yes, and how ironic is it that the new German chancellor just announced that he is going to increase his defense spending to above what NATO requested, which is 2%, which is what Trump just wanted the members of NATO to contribute. Just 2%. Now, I think they'll join Poland as the only NATO country that will contribute more than 2% to their defense. Additionally, he also said that he is going to start looking into building liquefied natural gas facilities. And that's exactly what Trump wanted to do. So essentially what Trump wanted to do is sell liquid natural gas to Germany. But they needed facilities there to take it. So now the German chancellor is looking into build that. Again, Trump is right. It's a terrible circumstance for him to be right, but he's right again. Now, just an update. We do know that Putin has increased his nuclear alert status, and that is still maintained at a high level. For whatever reason why he did this, who knows? But they are at a higher alert status. I don't know if they're at DEFCON 1. I doubt it, but they're at higher status. Also, President Zelensky, has petitioned the EU to become a member. If there wasn't a reason, and this may be a little harsh, but if they weren't good enough to get in beforehand, this doesn't make them in any better position. Again, it shows us that the Ukrainian people are tough, but if they didn't meet the requirements of being a member of the EU, this certainly shouldn't help. You know, we admire him by fighting for his country, but again, you have to make a rational decision at this point. And finally, I just wanted to talk about all those woke corporations. What are they going to do with Russia? What is Coca-Cola going to do? I just learned this morning that Coca-Cola gets 9% of its revenue from Russia and Ukraine. So are they going to now pull out? I'm sure there's plenty of other woke corporations that are doing business in Russia. And I'd like to see Coca-Cola do something right now, if you're genuine. So what I want to do is I just want to make one last point. And this has to do, and this is disappointing. You take a look at what Trudeau up in Canada has done to Russia with all their sanctions. And even if you look at this objectively, pound for pound, he has come down harder on his own residents, his own citizens, than he has on Russia. He's taken away these citizens 100% capacity to live, freezing their bank accounts 100%, taking their license away. Well, he hasn't done the full Monty with Russia. And isn't that ironic? You see where his priorities are. His priorities aren't to the Canadian people. His priorities to himself and some global class of people that want to run the world. Okay, with that said, let's just take a quick break. Hi, welcome back. Well, I just want to clear up. I mentioned that Germany was going to pay 2%, and that 2% is 2% of their GDP. All of NATO's members are supposed to pay 2% of their GDP, and most of them don't, and that's what bothered Trump. So now we have Poland and now Germany paying more than 2%. One thing I just wanted to go to is I just came across this article, opinion, from Piers Morgan, our English friend. I guess he worked at CNN for a while, was fired, and he wrote an opinion, and he wanted American troops in Ukraine. So he wants a nice English person wants American troops in Ukraine. Isn't that nice? You know, you can direct another country to put their kids into a war while you sit and do your TV shows every day. Same thing also is that he referenced some Bill Ackerman. He's some billionaire Wall Street hump. He also wants to put boots on the ground. You know what? You go fight. We don't need to be sending our kids to get killed over there. That's a European problem. Pierce, you're European. Work your magic somewhere else. And I'm sorry. It's a terrible thing that's going on in Ukraine, but that's not our fight. Our fight is at our own border. Our fight is with globalists trying to take down this country. That's what our fight is. And while we're on the subject, before we move on, you know, apparently Kiev is surrounded by Russian troops. The worst is yet to come for Kiev. I hope they can resolve this before it really gets bloody. But they have a massive army. Their army is so much bigger than the Ukrainian army. The only thing that the Ukrainians got going for them, and I think I said this before, is that they can create a guerrilla war. They can make it so not palatable for Russia to occupy, particularly Kiev. They won't want to be there. And plus, I don't think they are large enough to occupy a Ukraine that doesn't want them there. So we shall see. Hopefully they continue negotiations. But during negotiations today, the Russian troops moved in to surround Kiev. So that's where we are with that. But one thing I wanted to bring up, please, the media. I understand that you love to lie, and I understand that Russia is the bad boy here. But do you have to make things up? And what I'm talking about is a couple of stories here. Well, the first one is with this Snake Island incident, where 13 border guards had told a Russian warship to go F themselves as they defended Snake Island in the Black Sea. But they're still alive. The previous report said, oh, they all died as heroes. They got blasted away by the Russian Navy. Well, it's not true. said the 13 guards were initially presumed dead after they defiantly refused to surrender their post on the small island near the Romanian border when the two Russian vessels approached last Thursday. The Ukraine Navy said in a Facebook post that the guards had been taken captive by Russian occupiers. And they said, "We are very happy to learn that our brothers are alive and well." Well, the story that was played out earlier on was that these guys were heroes. They lost their lives. Their last words were "F you" to the Russians. Come on. The second story that bothers me is this whole ghost fighter. Apparently, there was this story about a ghost fighter, that Ukrainian ghost fighter that shot down 8 MiGs. And then there were clips of this ghost fighter shooting down MiGs. Well, it just so happens that it was a computer game. Now, some of these computer games are really realistic looking. And if you look closely, you can tell that they're fake. And this is one of those cases. So the media had played up the fact that, this ghost fighter, this unknown ghost fighter had taken down 8 MiGs. He's a hero. He's a national hero. Well, that's not true. It was a game. And then the last one I think is really problematic. A story at KPIX out of San Francisco. Now, that's on the West Coast. I'm on the East Coast. A Holly Williams did a story on Ukraine. And part of her story showed a CGI scenario where you had troops on a bridge. Now, it looked realistic at first, but then when you look closer, it was just not real. It was fake. And here she is using these cuts in her story. Have we gotten to the point, really, that we are now just making things up? Yeah, and I understand that during wartime, the truth is kind of stretched, but it just seems to come so easy with the mainstream media. So can you just stop it? You're not helping anybody. Now, the other thing I just wanted you to be on the lookout for is the Biden administration is going to use this whole Russia war to hide the fact that their economy is screwed up because of Biden, not because of this war. Now, they're already out there saying, inflation's going to get higher, oil and gas is going to get higher, which is true. But the fundamental screw-up and the fundamental problem with inflation was caused by Biden. Now, you can also make a case that Biden's policies in Russia added to the inflation. So, but they're going to try to spin this, and the mainstream media is going to try to spin this also. Oh, it's, you have a $10 a pound steak, and I'm talking about a chuck steak. You have a $10 a pound steak. Oh, that's not because of Biden. That's because of the war in Russia. Don't believe it. It's not true. It's fake news. The other thing, too, I find funny is, too, while all of our attention is on Russia, we're suddenly getting the CDC changing their policy, and it's really not based on science, or we can't find anything that says it's based on science. Let's see. Yeah, it just says here the CDC updated its masking guidance Friday afternoon, just in time for Biden's State of the Union address. It says 70% of Americans will be able to take their masks off indoors. The CDC has created a new metric to determine when people should mask up. The agency has moved away from case counts and will concentrate on hospitalizations and hospital capacity in its new mask guideline. I don't see any science there. Anyway, these are the changes they're going to slip in while everybody's focused on Russia. And in a related story, it looks like New York City's, it says here, starting next week, 2 of New York City's biggest pandemic restrictions will almost certainly come to an end following the steady drop of COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations following the Omicron wave. Mayor Eric Adams announced Sunday that New York City's face mask mandate for schools and vaccine mandate for indoor public venues will both end on March 7th. Well, that's nice. What is it based on? Any science? No, it's based on politics. That's what it's based on, what this entire thing has been based on, people's own individual agenda or politics. And what really gets me, there was an op-ed. I don't know who it was. It was from some parent, and I feel sorry for this kid that has his parent like that. But she's absolutely afraid to take off her mask. Now, I think she's probably mental. She needs to see a psychiatrist. But she is telling us that she can't take off her mask. She doesn't feel safe, and she can't wait till her kid gets the vaccine. 5-year-old kid, because she will not feel safe until 0 kids get COVID. They got a word for that. It's called agoraphobia. And I think we've created many agoraphobics in this country because of the politicization of COVID-19. Ay, ay, ay. Okay, let me take a quick break, and then we'll do business. Okay, just a couple of items before we get into business. The first item I want to touch upon is our truckers. Our truckers are midpoint. They're in Kansas City, Missouri, or right outside of Kansas City, Missouri. And from all reports, the caravan is 30 miles long, 30 miles plus long. So we wish them a safe trip going into Washington. And I'm real proud of them, and as well as I am of the Canadian truckers. The second thing, and this is a sad story, and let me just read the article for you. It says here, the man who pleaded guilty to entering the Capitol on January 6th dies by suicide. And I just have to read the article for you. And it says here, Pennsylvania man who was awaiting sentencing after pleading guilty to entering the Capitol building during the January 6th riot, died by suicide on Friday. Matthew Perna pleaded guilty on December 9th to charges related to him entering and remaining inside the Capitol building for about 20 minutes during the riot. He was not charged with engaging in any acts of direct violence. Perna's obituary posted on the John Flynn Funeral Home said he died of a broken heart. Says he attended the rally on January 6th to peacefully stand up for his beliefs. After learning that the FBI was looking for him, he immediately turned himself in. He entered through the Capitol through a previously open door. He did not break in, as reported, where he was ushered in by police. He didn't break, touch, or steal anything. He did not harm anyone, as he stayed within the velvet ropes taking pictures. Pena was sent to be sentenced in early March, but the prosecutors motioned on February 11th to delay his sentencing until April 1st, to give them more time to ensure that all January 6th defendants facing similar charges were treated in the same manner. Perna's aunt, Jeannie Perna, said the sentencing delay broke him. They broke him, she said. They mentally broke him. He had run out of hope. I know he couldn't take it anymore. Perna hanged himself in his garage Friday evening. It says here, the constant delays in hearings and postponements dragged out for over a year. Because of this, Matt's heart broke and his spirit died. And many people were responsible for the pain he endured. The obituary reads, Matt did not have a hateful bone in his body. He embraced people of all races, income brackets, and beliefs, never once berating anyone for having a different view. So you call this justice? This is justice. We're now creating havoc in people's lives that they have to commit suicide. Poor guy just meandered into the Capitol building, and this results in his life. And it's because of the judicial system right now. It is warped. The judicial system is warped when dealing with those people on January 6th. And history is not going to be kind to these judges, these prosecutors, and everyone else involved with these detainees and anyone that wasn't detained. It's very sad. Okay, let me just switch to business. And just the headline in business says Shell is getting out of Russia. Shell is ditching its joint venture with Gazprom, including its involvement with the Nord Stream 2 natural gas pipeline. The UK-based oil company said Monday it would dump 27.5% stake in the Sakhalin 2 liquefied natural gas facility. Its 50% stake in a project to develop the Salem fields in western Siberia, and its 50% interest in an exploration project in the Gaden Peninsula in northwestern Siberia. Okay, Shell is out. Okay, let's go to stocks. The Dow finished down 0.49% to 33,892.6. For the year, the Dow is down 6.73%. And again, it was a wild day today. It was down 500. It's clawed back, but it finished down 0.49%. The S&P was down 0.24% to 4,373 and 90. For the year, it's down 8.23%. The Nasdaq finished up 0.41% to 13,751.4. For the year, it's down 12.1%. Oil was up 4.5% to $95.72 per barrel. Gold was up 0.29% to $1,906.30. Silver was up 0.34% to $24.45. On the crypto front, Bitcoin was up 14.6% to $43,340.49. Ethereum was up 11.69% to $2,932.80. And XRP was up 8.4% to 78 cents. On earnings for this week, on Tuesday, March 1st, we've got Salesforce, Target, Bank of Montreal, Bayer, and AutoZone, to name a few. On Wednesday, March 2nd, we've got Dollar Tree, Burbank of Russia, and American Eagle Outfitters. On Thursday, March 3rd, we've got Broadcom, Costco, TD Bank, and Best Buy presenting their earnings. And then on Friday, a quiet day, it's Cipher Mining and Kansas City Life. Now let's switch to the economic calendar for the week. On Tuesday, we've got the Market Manufacturing PMI, the ISM Manufacturing Index, construction spending. On Wednesday, we've got the ADP Employment Report. Now, if you remember last month, they were way off. Let's hope they do a better job on Wednesday. And then at 2 p.m., they've got the Beige Book. On Thursday, we've got initial jobless claims, continuing jobless claims, productivity revision, factory orders, core capital equipment orders. And then the Fed Chair, Jerome Powell, will testify in front of the Senate committee. And that starts at 10 a.m. And then on Friday, we've got non-farm payrolls, unemployment rate, average hourly earnings, labor force participation rate, and that should be it. So, again, Russia, I think, is going to dominate the week. Again, at some point, we're going to have to face what the Fed does with interest rates. But right now, I think for the rest of the week, Russia is going to dominate the market. Now, from what I hear is that a lot of the oil and energy traders are saying there really hasn't been any disruption in supply for what they say. I mean, I'm sure that could change, but today There didn't seem to be any disruption in any energy supplies. Okay, that is it. All right, you have a good week, and I will see you on Saturday. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave you with another clip of President Trump at CPAC on Saturday. He was tremendous, and I just think he deserves us to hear him again. Again, thanks.
A Department of Homeland Security actively aiding illegal immigration and, in many cases, criminals coming into our country. Criminals, absolute criminals. A Department of Energy and Interior forcing us to be reliant on foreign energy at a cost that is not acceptable to our nation and not sustainable. A Department of Justice waging war on an opposing party and patriotic parents. As grave as the dangers are abroad, it's the destruction within that spells our doom. We must get this reversed. Our most dangerous people are people from within. These are people that must hate our country because they make us weak and they make our country unsustainable as a nation itself.